All right, so JB and I are on our way to have a little exploration with a will it start situation. It's a 1937 Buick. I don't know a lot more than that. I'm going to let JB explain what it is. But I know it hasn't been started in years, and it's time to fire it up. But let's see what happens. It's going to be a lot of fun.
We have a car that hasn't been broken out, as a friend of mine used to say, in a long time. And it's been kept in closed quarters, hasn't been operated. So we're concerned that there are a number of things that might require freshening in order for it to be usable again. We want to use it. It's in Arizona, this is about the time the cars start to come out, and this one hasn't been out in a number of years, so we're hopeful that there isn't some problem based on sitting that long that we have to be confronted with. But you know, gasoline has ethanol or alcohol in it, and that alcohol rots, and you can actually tell just by getting a whiff of it that it doesn't smell like gasoline. It smells more like dead animals or something, which is what alcohol is.
Right.
We got to be careful that we also don't make some mistakes about when we start it, because if it hadn't been started in a long time, if it's going to be a number of years, we're going to have to do something even in addition to just air up the tires and drain the tank. We're also going to have to be careful that the engine is started. Usually if it's been a number of years, you want to start it by hand. By that I mean you put a wrench on the front of the crankshaft and actually turn it by hand,
Okay.
because your hand motion prevents you from really cranking on. A starter motor has a lot of power, and if the rings, for instance, have been sitting for a number of years, they can lock up on the cylinder walls, and then when you hit the starter, of course, it puts a tremendous amount of stress on those rings, and it can actually break the rings. So you might have had a good motor, but in your haste to get it started, you tried to start it, and that starter motor could actually break one or several rings.
So I guess, you know, sometimes people make videos, and I'm sure it's a lot of fun, where they just take old cars and they just hit them hard with some with a starter and some starting fluid and crank it, and they may get an old car running. But they may have broken a ring or something very catastrophic that causes it to not have much life.
Yeah, with the price of rebuilding engines and the heartache that goes with it. You really don't want to do that. So you know, if you had a car that hasn't been running a number of years, it'd be a really good idea to you know, get something, a socket, and put it on the front of the crankshaft and rock it back and forth gently so that you don't hurt something inside, and that would be a really good idea, so that you don't have that, you know, damage.
Yeah. Okay, so now let's do a reveal here. Let's open this door and see what's back here.
Yep.
And,
well, we sure hope we know what's back here.
We hope you would know
let's
more than me.
Yeah, well, we
I'm
don't.
along for the ride.
There could be something living in here for all we know, you know. So here we go.
All right.
All right.
Well,
there.
Underneath that dust, what is it?
Well, watch out for bats. Okay.
Yeah.
This is a 1937 Century convertible. There were only a handful of them made in 37. This is the car that was referred to as the banker's hot rod.
Okay.
In 1936, Buick wanted to have a car to separate itself from Fords and Chevrolets and that sort of thing. And so because the guys at Buick kind of ran the show at General Motors in a number of ways, they decided to build what was called a hot rod very early on. And that may not have been the phrase that was used at the time, but in the case of the Century was really the special model with a longer front end and a bigger engine and a different transmission. So it was really literally was a hot rod for the time. And the word Century, of course, means 100, which refers back to the fact that Buick actually guaranteed that these cars would go 100 miles an hour.
Wow.
That was a big deal in 1935 when the 36 Century first came out. And this, of course, is
this is the second model year.
This is the second model year, which is always better than the first one, because the first one, of course, usually has teething problems. So if humanly possible, you don't want to get the first one of anything. That's really not a good idea.
Okay.
They push them out the door a lot of times just to get them done, and they're frustrated, so they just, start delivering them, and then you get what you get. And then 37s, as an example, came with the first automatic transmission.
Oh, really?
Which there's good news and there's bad news.
Does this one have an automatic?
It does not.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, it does.
It does.
What am I saying?
Okay.
Well, but it doesn't have a 1937 Buick transmission.
I see. It has a different automatic.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
We retrofitted it with a late model automatic transmission, and because we wanted it to be something that the entire family could use. And
sure.
It's a sort of thing that's happening a lot to get between an original car and a full-blown hot rod. Our belief is that we should keep the original engine and put an automatic transmission in it if possible, and then a more modern rear end usually comes along and makes the transition complete. Mm-hmm. In this case, that's what we've done. This has a 1965 Buick Riviera rear end in it, which we use that because it's the same width as the 37, so we didn't have to worry about that, and it also fit in the space and made it up with the later model.
And it's in the family. It's a Buick.
Thank you.
It's a Buick part.
Yes,
so
if you're going to be working on Buicks, we don't want to be putting any Packard parts in it. Okay,
right.
That would not be good. And you get universal scorn, and you'd probably deserve it. Now, there's a number of modifications on this car to make it a little bit more useful.
We see there's a cat here that apparently slipped and fell based on what that looks like.
Yeah, that sure does look like that.
The catwalk was a little slippery.
Well, we need to explain the
what
expression.
What is a catwalk?
Yeah, catwalk is an expression that was used in the automotive design people to describe a fender that had a distinct area here and a distinct area here, so that it created that valley. And that's what was nicknamed a catwalk.
Right.
In our case, we find out that it really does have some use for cats. Not that I'm happy about that, but we can see clearly that the cat is.
There's been a cat in here.
Yes.
Now, this dust is old enough. The cat may have already deceased for all we know.
Well, we'll hope so. The point is that he hasn't really done any real damage.
Right.
But if you let him get on the inside of the car by leaving the windows down too far, then of course they'll go in there and do what they do, which is nothing good's going to happen after that.
Right.
So we need to keep the windows down a crack, but not enough for animals to actually get in the car, and that's been done in this case. I think the first thing we want to do is open the hood. This hasn't been open a long time.
Okay.
Obviously. Those are not fake leaves, by the way.
Those
are real, honest to goodness. Okay, now this thing has a side opening hood. This is and that sets up on the cowl. And this car is unique because it has two 2-barrel carburetors. This is an Edmunds, and it was available in this period a little bit later, probably in the early 40s. And remember now that this big straight 8 engine, which is 14 feet long, shared that same engine from 36 clear up into the 50s. So it was around a long time, so a lot of the hot rodders built these multiple carburetor setups, and this is an Edmunds, very rare setup. And it's got 241 Buick carburetors on it, which are considered to be really a very good carburetor.
This is kind of a hot-rodded, quote-unquote, car to some extent for a period. This could easily have been a period hot rod, I guess, in a way. Yeah,
actually, we kind of use that notion. The earlier that the car was converted, the more fun it is and the more period correct pieces are on it. So it just makes it a little bit more interesting.
Yeah.
You can convert any engine at any point, but to have stuff from the period like the Edmunds and the earlier carburetors makes it a lot more fun. This one also has an alternator rather than a generator. If you look down in here, you can see that that's been adapted. Get rid of the cobwebs there.
Okay, so where is it?
There it is. Those are real cobwebs, by the way.
Right.
We didn't get that at the Halloween store.
It took years and years to grow.
Yes, it did, and I had to come out here and keep encouraging the Spider.
Yeah.
But the point is, we've also adapted a different header system, because of course now we got two barrels rather than a single 2 barrel, so we need a little bit different exhaust system. It's not radically different, but a little bit different. And of course, we got to have 2 lines running to the carburetors rather than just the one, so we made our own out of Aeroquip, which is a type of racing equipment.
Right on.
Yep, and we kept the original engine.
Yeah,
it was rebuilt with a little bit higher dome pistons to give us a little better compression, because we were trying to create a little horsepower there.
Yep.
And then we adapted the modern General Motors automatic transmission to it, which was the nightmare we never intended to get into.
Okay, so it's a little bit of a
oh my goodness! Well, the problem is that when you convert from a stick transmission to an automatic, there is a brace in the car that carries the pedals, and of course, when you take all that out of there, now you've got nothing. So we had to actually build a system where it hangs off the bottom of the inside of the cowl here, and because we had to have those swinging pedals to provide for what was earlier was a 3-pedal setup that is now going to be used for an automatic, which obviously only has 2. These also are off of a truck, I believe, probably in the 30s or 40s.
Okay.
Okay, these are a little bit more streamlined than the originals. The original is reminiscent of this, but it has a big bulb sticking out here.
Okay.
Kind of obnoxious.
You know, and when we get this cleaned up,
yes,
we'll be able to see some of this even
exactly.
in more glory.
Exactly.
We'll say.
Yeah, but otherwise, it is really a very original car.
Yeah, it looks. I mean, you've pointed out some mechanical changes, but from the outside, apart from those lights, it looks to my eyes very original.
Now the interior, of course, has been we took some liberties with that as well.
Yeah.
Other than that, I was going to delete the dual side mount tires on the front fenders, and a friend of mine threatened to kill me if I did that. So
yeah, I think it looks really cool with the dual.
It really does when you get it out. I was more thinking in terms of streamline, but you know, he was right. When we finally saw it finished, we knew that it really made sense.
Yeah.
We've used a Haartz material, which is like a Mercedes-Benz origin, so it's very tough.
When you say material, you're talking about the convertible top?
The convertible top is not made out of canvas like it was originally. It's made out of a Haartz material, which is a brand that makes very high-end, very durable tops that are used routinely on Mercedes-Benz.
Gotcha. Okay, so now we're going to try to get this thing actually to fire up and go.
Yes, we are. That's our hope.
Can you catch us up? I know you did a little tiny bit of prep, right?
Not very much. All we did was pump up the tires. We checked
okay,
and made sure that there wasn't any gasoline in the tank.
Okay.
Of course, because if it had sat for a number of years, we would have had to drain it out. Then we'd have to drain the lines going to the tank. And of course, we may have some...
So we're kind of wandering into a tip for someone who's going to long-term store. You might be better to just run it out of gas than leave any
That's exactly what we did in this case, remembering that there is a little bit of fuel in the bowls of the carburetors. So, you know, sometimes you got to flush that through, but that usually is not a whole lot. And in our case, we installed an electric fuel pump because the mechanical pumps take forever. You know, this car is 275 feet long, so that's a long way from the tank.
That's a battleship.
Yes, it is, and you better get out of its way when it's moving.
Sure.
So the point is that in order for the fuel to get up to the carburetors quickly, like we're accustomed to in modern cars, we put an electric fuel pump on. So when we start, you'll hear the noise, and then when the noise quits, that means that the fuel has made its way from the tank to the back of the carburetor.
Gotcha.
And it's ready to feed fuel to the carburetors.
All right. Well, I guess if we're going to clean it up, we have to get it out of there first.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Let's see if we can get this thing to start. And it's been years. You don't know exactly how long?
No, there's no guarantees, except that it is a Buick.
It is a Buick.
Yes.
But do you have any thoughts on how many years it's been sitting?
Well, the last article we did in Rod and Custom was, I think, 2012.
12. Okay, so that
it would have been.
We're in 2021 right now, so that's 8 or 9 years ago.
Yeah, it's a long time really to sit.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it shouldn't have sat this long because of all the cars that we have, this is Walker's favorite, I think.
Really?
It really is because it drives so easy.
Yeah.
It's fast, it's comfortable, it goes around corners properly. It's sitting down a little lower than a 30s car would sit, so it doesn't have the body lean that you're accustomed to, and It's just an easy car to live with.
Okay, so it's overdue to get out and get
Yes,
going.
it is. All these Zephyrs have got to get out of the way. Okay.
No.
Yeah.
Zephyrs, get in line.
Make way for a real car. Okay.